Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another AI video. I don't know if I would call this accessible AI or accessibility AI. No idea what playlist I'm actually going to put this under, but I wanted to cover it because it's just, as I teased on Twitter the other day, it's fascinating, it's weird, and maybe even a little creepy. This time we were taking a look at a tool from Google. It is called NotebookLM, and you can go to notebooklm.google.com. I'll try to remember to leave a link in the description below. This is a unique use of AI, shall we say? What this does is we've seen in the last year or so, we've seen several tools that will, you feed it text and you can have it like edit the text into, I want to make it more professional, more casual, more friendly, more whatever. We've seen AI that can, summarize. Maybe you feed it like a huge document of, a whole bunch of pages and you ask it for a summary or what have you in text form. Well, this goes one step further, and it creates an AI podcast where they basically take a AI male and female host and they have a conversation about whatever you feed it, and you can give it um, things from like Google Docs, Google Slides, the clipboard. You can give it a website URL, you can give it a YouTube link, and you cannot do Word documents, I found out. You can do the Google stuff, but you cannot do Word documents, but you can feed it PDF files and such. There's a whole bunch of other files, but they just don't support Word or Microsoft stuff, apparently. I've created one the other day, and I created it based on a recent video that I did. I fed it the link to my recent video, Assistive Technology 101, where, I kind of gave new people an overview of blindness and low vision assistive technology. So, again, cheap plug if you are new to the channel, if you are new to blind and low vision assistive tech, I would definitely recommend that video on the assistive technology, or I believe I put it in the Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist as well. But even if you have other people, like you're having a conversation with randos online or coworkers or whoever that, like, oh, I didn't know a blind person could do this, or how can a blind person possibly use this type of technology? Please share the video. I would love more people to see it, and I hope it's helpful to people. We are going to listen to the podcast that it generated based on that in a moment. But before we do that, we're going to create another one because I want to show you how the creation process goes. When I did the first creation, I did it on my iPhone, and I just went to the website, notebooklm.google.com, and it worked perfectly fine with Safari and VoiceOver. I'm going to do it with NVDA here. So we're at NotebookLM website here.
Button Google account.
And we're just going to go to our
Anderson.
first heading.
Notebooks heading level 4. Button new notebook.
Okay, new notebook.
New notebook button.
We're going to do that. Now we can, I think there's somewhere where we can rename it. I found it somewhere eventually on my phone, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. We're going to give it some information. So in this new notebook,
Upload
we're going to tab.
From your computer button.
There's our upload.
Clickable Google Docs.
Google Docs.
Clickable Google Slides.
Google Slides. We can pull in from either of those.
Clickable website.
We're going to do that in a minute.
Clickable YouTube. Clickable copied text.
And copied text, we can do that.
Close dialog button. Upload sources
so
from your computer
button. So let's circle back around.
Clickable website.
So I'm going to Alt-Tab.
Projects illegally.
I have my projects page from illegallycited.com.
Toolbar.
We're going to go to our address bar. We're going to copy it.
Project.
And then we're going to Alt-Tab back.
Clickable website.
And we're going to go to website here, and then we'll tab.
Dialog. Button unavailable. Insert. Paste URL edit required.
Paste.
Insert button. Select
and
all sources.
Insert. And now we are given this whole kind of a big summary. It immediately gives us a bit of a text summary and whatnot. But what we're actually looking for, and I don't know if this is a heading. Let's find out.
Clickable help me create heading level 3. Audio overview heading level 3.
Okay, so audio overview, that's what we want. If we arrow down from here,
Deep dive conversation.
this is our deep dive conversation. This is the podcast thing that it talked about.
2 hosts, English only.
2 hosts.
Button customize. Button generate.
Button generate. Let's generate
Untitled
this.
notebook.
And I'll leave you to, if you try this for yourself, you can peruse the other areas of this dialogue. So it will have like, there's a summary, there's a bunch of other things that, that you can look at or that you can do. Now this does take a few minutes to generate depending on what you gave it. I'm going to hit Control Tab because I'm going to go to another,
Assistive tech.
our existing one here. Now, what I found with the podcast is we're going to listen to this one and just see how it goes because I listened to part of it. Again, this is where you get this uncanny valley type of thing where it's cool, and they try to do this, in this natural conversation, and it kind of succeeds, and it's surprisingly decent, better than I thought it would be, but at the same time, it's not really that natural because you get a lot of where one person will say something and then they go back and forth and they just like say the same word or say a similar word. Like they inject, like they go back and forth. And that's not really how people talk to each other. They'll chime in eventually, sometimes with a word, but it won't just be I think they just want to like, hey, look at how we can go back and forth and pretend we're talking. So I'm just going to click the mouse here, but to save time. But we're going to hit play.
Play audio button.
Like making assumptions about what it's really like for someone who's blind.
Yeah, totally.
Today we're going to try to break down some of those assumptions.
Yeah.
Remember, this is the Assistive Tech 101 video.
Jesse
Right.
from Illegally Sighted, which right there, that name, like, says so much.
It's
We're
pretty
going
great.
deep on his video, Blind and Low Vision Tech 101.
Yeah, it's a good one. He doesn't hold back at all.
No, he doesn't. And his humor is
They
lovely.
sound
the
real.
best. And what's so striking is how he just goes right into this
They're
misconception
great voices.
that blindness equals total darkness.
Yeah.
Like from the start, even his channel name, Illegally Sighted, plays on that.
It's like he's instantly challenging this idea that if someone's visually impaired, it's just total darkness,
Exactly.
And he mentions, like, viewers even ask,
Did I hear like a
"How do you
chair
even make
creak
videos if you're blind?"
Right,
in the
like it's some
background? Like
kind of
a
magic
oh
trick.
weird.
Yeah.
But it really underscores this idea that there's a whole spectrum of visual impairment. The legal definition of blindness is all about your visual acuity, so how sharp your vision is and your field of vision.
Right.
It's not like an on or off switch.
It's way more nuanced than I think a lot of people realize.
For sure.
And it kind of reminds me of how people will just say someone's like, oh, they're computer illiterate.
Right.
There's so many degrees in between.
Totally.
Speaking of computers, Jesse dives into what he calls the big three of assistive tech: screen readers, screen magnifiers, and refreshable braille displays.
The essentials.
Yeah. And what I thought was really interesting is, like, these aren't like niche technologies.
No, not at all.
It's stuff that's built into a lot of devices we use every day.
exactly.
Pause audio player button.
So again, I want other reason I wanted to go through this, not just to hear how the voice quality is, but I want to see how accurate it is. Given the video, did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? And they got it partially right. The main three that I covered were screen readers, screen magnification, and braille displays. But they didn't lump it together quite correctly because, yes, there are built-in screen readers and magnifiers, but there are also paid ones, and braille displays are sure not built into mainstream technology. So there's some subtleties, unless they address it later. There's already some subtleties that they don't quite pick up on. It's not bad, but I wouldn't call it. Again, this is where you can get a summary, but you really want to review. You don't want to just rely on AI. I mean, especially now, but like you want to really check your sources because they make it sound perfectly believable, And if I had never heard of a Braille display before, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, okay, I'll take their word for it. But that's a subtlety that I noticed already that they did not get right. Let's continue.
Play audio button.
Serve different needs and preferences, which is so important. So you've got screen readers, which basically read aloud the text and the interface elements.
Okay.
Right?
Magnifiers, pretty self-explanatory, enlarge the content on the screen.
Makes sense.
And then refreshable Braille displays, which is really cool, convert text into tactile Braille.
I've always been curious about Braille, and he actually shows a Braille textbook.
Oh, yeah.
And
No,
how
I
big it is,
didn't.
And he's like, this is just one book.
It's
Assistive tech.
Like a
Pause audio player
No,
button.
I described how Braille textbooks took up several volumes, but what I showed was the 20-cell e-reader from NLS. So again, that's another thing that they kind of got muddled up on. I talked about Braille displays versus physical textbooks, and there are times where you would want to maybe have a physical textbook for the spatialness of everything. I don't even think that's a word, but anyway, for the spatial side of things. But no, I showed a Braille display. So interesting.
Play audio button.
for every single book.
It makes you appreciate how digital Braille has been a game changer.
Totally.
That's
but I
true.
was curious, does everyone who is blind read Braille?
That's a really common misconception, kind of like assuming all sighted people love audiobooks or something.
Why?
Braille is super important, especially for people who are tactile learners.
This is about
Okay.
where I
or
stopped.
like for labeling things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's not universally used. Some people might find other assistive tech works better for them.
Right, it's about what works for each person.
Exactly.
So let's talk smartphones for a second.
Okay.
Jesse uses an iPhone, and I love how he talks about the disbelief he gets from sighted people,
Oh, tell me about it. People can be clueless.
especially about like navigating YouTube comments, which for him, he's just like boom, 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 doing his thing.
Yeah, like it's second nature.
It totally is.
Which it is. It highlights this whole concept of muscle memory.
Okay.
Think about it. When you type, you don't look at every single key, right? You just kind of know where they are.
Yeah.
He's developed that same kind of mental map
Okay.
of his phone screen. He's navigating by touch and his spatial awareness.
Pause audio player button.
Also, partially true, partially not true. It would be impossible to navigate every app and every interface, every screen completely by memorization and by touch. I use that as a technique once I'm familiar with an app, sure, but I use, the gestures for, like your flicking, your rotor, all of these core voiceover gestures again. So they get it kind of right, but there's subtleties that they don't quite pick up on. This is really fascinating to see how it interprets something because usually when I'm looking up something with AI, it's because you're wanting to find out something, and having it analyze something you created that pretty much inside and out, a topic that you are intimately familiar with. This is what it's pretty interesting to see what's going on. So overall, it's doing pretty well, but there are things that it's not quite picking up on. And we're
323, 1234.
about a fourth of the way, 1/3 of the way, somewhere in
323,
there
12.
through it here.
Play audio button.
His use of the camera is next level.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about OCR apps,
Yeah.
optical character recognition,
Right.
and he actually scans a flyer live
Which I
in the
did.
video
Wow.
and has it read aloud. I was like, my mind is blown.
It's pretty amazing stuff.
It is amazing.
It's worth
There's some
taking
weird
a second to
artifacting on some of her
differentiate OCR
stuff.
and screen readers, though.
Okay,
So a screen reader is going to be interpreting digital text.
right.
OCR is taking something printed out, handwritten, like
Like
that
when she
flyer,
does
Okay.
like
and
wow
it converts it to
and
digital
stuff.
text that then can be read out loud.
So they work kind of hand in hand in a way.
Exactly. They each have their own strengths.
Like tech is bridging these gaps. But Jesse's not afraid to talk about like the hard stuff too. Like he gets into like how people have these low expectations
Yeah.
of what he can and can't do.
Totally.
Even something as simple
Totally.
as like getting a package delivered.
Ah, right.
He shares this story and it's like really telling.
Yeah.
Where someone asks him, "You work?"
Oh, man.
After he picks up a package.
Just like assumed that if you have a visual impairment, you couldn't possibly be employed or contributing to
Yeah, see, there's
society
the
in a
little weird
meaningful
little
way.
It's like
things
people
like
can't wrap their heads around.
I know.
The fact that you can have a visual impairment and still like
Right.
live your life, have a job,
Exactly.
have interests, all of it.
It's so frustrating.
Suggest the YouTube bit table of content show desktop. Pause audio player
So
button.
I want to pause it here for a second because they're right on what they're talking about. But there's a lot of little, right, yeah, sure. There's a lot of little interruptions that I don't think they need to go quite that hard on. I don't think they need to go quite as frequently with those sort of incidental interruptions, shall we say. I mean, every once in a while, sure, like that is what people will do sometimes in a conversation. But I think they overdo it a little bit, and it comes off as a little bit forced and maybe not quite as natural as it, as a real conversation. And like some of the, like I said, there was some weird, I don't know, like artifacting or just some sort of weird way when they pronounce some of these shorter things where you can hear their voices are a little goofy. I will say that both of their voices so far, I think that both of them are actually very, very good. I think like the guy's voice so far has been a little bit more fluid. I've noticed a few more weird little quirks with the female voice. But they're both very good. I mean, like I said, if we, we're getting so close to super clear. If we get these for text to speech, and if they are, the problem is they have to be clear, and especially for blind and visually impaired users, they have to be responsive, no delays when I'm navigating with my screen reader, my technology, and they have to perform and speak clearly at higher speeds. I want to know what these voices sound like, at 200-300%. Because do they start getting really choppy, and does it sound like rough, or like I said, choppy or weird? Well, let's continue and see what else they have to say here.
Play audio button.
Employment Awareness Month.
Right.
Which, as Jesse mentions, falls at the same time as World Blindness Awareness Month.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, so, maybe a coincidence.
Yeah.
Their inflection is
But
pretty
it
intriguing
underscores
too.
This whole need to break
The
down these
hell was
biases,
that?
Okay.
especially when it comes to jobs.
Yeah, and it's not
The
just
when he said
hypothetical
need,
for him
that was
either.
bizarre.
He actually talks about, like, his own struggles.
Yeah.
Trying to find work.
It's tough out there.
Even though he's got the qualifications and, like, even getting a job offer and then having it taken away.
Oh, no.
Because of his visual impairment.
I didn't have a
It's
job
gotta be
taken
so
away.
disheartening.
That was a
Really
minor flub
highlights
again.
How sometimes the biggest obstacle isn't the technology.
Right.
It's just people's attitudes.
Yeah.
And this lack of understanding.
Yeah, he even talks about comments that he gets online.
Oh, I bet.
From people who are like, oh, you're faking it.
Oh, come on.
You can't really be visually impaired because you play video games.
Right.
That's really good
Or,
inflection
like,
right
you
there.
make videos.
Because those are impossible.
Right.
That's
If you can't
crazy.
see-
It's like their worldview is just being challenged.
I think so. They have to resort to disbelief
Totally.
instead of just trying to like understand.
It's easier to deny it
It is easier to deny.
than to actually like learn and grow
Yeah.
as a person.
But I love how he dismantles those misconceptions with humor.
He does it so well.
Like he points out, sighted people don't just magically know
Right.
where all the keys are on a keyboard.
Right.
They learn, just like he's had to learn,
Exactly.
to interact with technology in a different way.
It's about shifting the perspective
Okay.
from what someone can't do
Yeah.
to how they adapt and what they can do.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be a limit.
Assistive.
there's
Pause
too
audio
much
player
of
button.
those little quirks, those little chime-ins. They don't have to do that near as often. And I think this would actually, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it would present even a little bit more realistically if they cut out a little bit of that.
Play audio button.
Like, and he talks about how having a job,
Right.
it's about dignity,
Yeah.
being able to support himself,
Absolutely.
live
Yep.
independently.
Those are things that everybody wants.
Those are things everybody wants.
Right. It's a universal desire.
I'm curious
to
where
be
they're going to go
seen
with
for
this.
what you're good at,
Yeah.
to contribute, to have a fulfilling life.
And it's a good message, especially like during Disability Employment Awareness Month.
For sure.
It's a
Okay.
reminder
Yeah.
to employers especially, right?
Yeah,
Tying
yeah.
it back to that.
recognize the talent
Absolutely.
that's out there.
There's so much untapped potential
Yeah.
in the disabled community.
And to look beyond the assumptions.
Right. Don't just write people off because
yeah.
of a disability.
Yeah. And it's not just limited to the workplace.
No,
They're wording
no.
some of
This
this
is-
stuff
this spills
actually
over
pretty
into
well.
Every aspect of life.
100%.
You know, how we interact with each other,
How we design things.
how we design things,
Public spaces.
how we consume information.
The media we consume.
Yeah.
It all plays a role.
It all ties together.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Ah.
It even shares some of the like
Assistive tech. Pause audio.
I'm getting an I just realized I'm getting an NPR vibe. I feel like I'm listening to an NPR episode. And that's not a bad thing, but I was sitting here listening and going, this is totally an NPR conversation. That's what this reminds me of. Just a little quick note there. We're about 2/3 done now.
Play audio button.
Oh, I bet.
like how do you even like how do you use the bathroom?
Oh my gosh.
Like what? Come on.
It's unbelievable.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
What?
I do.
I like the way he
It's
said
wild,
that.
the things
Like,
people
what?
think are okay to ask.
It is wild. It really
That's
is.
how I
But
would
it goes
say
to
it.
show you, like,
Yeah.
the lack of understanding
The
what-
lack of understanding.
and the dehumanization that happens.
It's almost like people forget
Yeah.
that, like, you know,
Right.
just because you have a disability doesn't
Yeah.
mean you don't have common sense.
Exactly.
Or like basic
Amen.
human needs.
You're still
That's-
a person at the end of the day.
Like, come on.
And I
Amen.
think those moments, while definitely uncomfortable,
Yeah.
they highlight the importance of having open and honest conversations.
Right. Just talk to each other.
Exactly. That's how we bridge these gaps.
It's crazy, right? They think you're not even a person anymore.
It's dehumanizing, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just like an abstract thing, you know,
Yeah.
like these assumptions, they have consequences.
Absolutely.
He even mentions how it affected like a job offer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He got a job offer for like a tech support role,
Okay.
which like you would think
Right.
makes perfect sense.
Right. Totally.
But then when they found out he was blind,
Yeah.
they took it back.
Oh, no.
I know.
It's awful.
And it just shows you, like,
Yeah.
Again, that was
deep
not
this bias runs.
quite
Yeah.
what I said,
It's really disheartening.
It is.
but
see
that
that
does
people
happen
still
all
think
the
that way.
time. It
It's like
has
they
happened to
can't even
me.
fathom
I know.
how someone with a visual impairment could possibly
Right.
be good at tech.
Right. As if.
Which, come on.
Exactly.
But his message to employers is so important.
What's that?
He's just like, don't underestimate us.
Yeah.
Like, give us a chance. Treat us with respect.
Give people the opportunity.
Yeah, and you might be surprised
And
by what
think-
we can do.
You know, it makes you think about inclusion in a whole new light.
Okay.
It's not just about checking boxes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about realizing
right, yeah.
that diversity,
Right.
it's not just a good thing to have. It's
Yeah.
essential.
For everything.
Yeah, for innovation, for
This is
building a
just
better world,
fascinating.
for a better society.
And again, it's not just the workplace either.
No, not at all.
Like, he talks about, he loves gaming
Okay.
and like the frustration
Yeah.
of constantly having to deal with people's skepticism.
Oh, I bet.
Like, he's playing an online game.
Right.
He mentions he's blind,
Yeah.
and the people he's playing with are like,
Yeah.
no, you're not.
You're lying.
Yeah. Like, there's no way you can play this well.
You're cheating.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
This goes to show you.
it's another example of these barriers.
Yeah, these invisible barriers.
And the people don't even realize they're putting up.
Exactly. And they can be just as damaging
They can be more damaging
as
Yeah,
any
if not
physical
more so.
barrier.
because you don't even realize it's happening a lot of
Yep.
times.
Right. And it's harder to fight against.
It is harder to fight against.
Because you can't see it.
Right, exactly.
But it's there.
And it's there.
Yeah,
audio player button.
there's this kind of they keep looping back on each other, and it's it's a little not quite right. It's close, but it's like they're trying too hard, and they keep kind of looping back on each other, saying the same thing instead of just sort of moving on, and a lot of interjections and stuff. But this is still utterly fascinating to see what an AI podcast analyzing one of my videos is. This is just weird.
Play audio button.
And it's on all of us.
We're
to
almost done.
recognize it
to call it out.
and to change it,
To do better.
to do better. And I think, what I really took away from Jesse's story
Yeah.
is this idea of like
God, this is so NPR.
not letting a disability
Right.
define you.
Right.
Like he's obviously incredibly capable.
He's amazing.
But he also acknowledges
Damn right.
Right.
that there are times when he needs help.
Of course.
And that's okay.
It's human.
It is human.
We all need help sometimes.
And like asking for help doesn't
Yes,
diminish your
agreed.
accomplishments.
It doesn't make you any less capable.
It makes you more relatable, I think.
I agree.
And he even jokes about how like he's illegally sighted enough
Right.
to still enjoy like sunsets in movies.
That's great.
Like finding the humor
Yeah.
even in the face of all this.
It's important to be able to laugh,
It is.
especially at yourself.
And I think that's what makes his voice so important.
What's that?
He's not afraid to be honest. He's funny
Yeah.
and he owns it,
He's authentically himself.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you want to listen.
It makes you want to learn.
Exactly.
It makes you want to be better.
It makes you want to be better.
And I think that's the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
When you share your story,
Yeah.
it can have a ripple effect.
It can change the world.
It can change the world, and I think that's what Jesse's doing.
He is. He really is. So I guess if there's one thing to take away
Now
from
we're
this
almost done.
whole deep dive, it's
Yeah.
think about your own life.
Okay.
Have you ever
Yeah.
made an assumption about someone
Right.
based on like how they look,
Based on their appearance.
based on their abilities?
Yeah.
And like challenge yourself.
Challenge those assumptions.
Challenge those assumptions.
Be open to the possibility
Yes.
that you might be wrong.
You might be wrong.
You might learn something.
You might learn something.
You might just make the world
Yeah.
a slightly better place.
A slightly better place just by listening.
Just by listening.
That's all it takes sometimes.
That's all it takes.
And that's it. So no real closure, but kind of a closure there. And like I said, toward the end, it was a lot of weird circular, kind of stilted conversation. But again, I see what they were trying to do, and overall, it was still pretty effective. They got a few things. I would say they didn't get anything completely wrong. But there were definitely probably about a half a dozen things that they didn't interpret quite fully or maybe inferred. Now, when I think about my life and what they said was not inaccurate because some of those things have happened to me, but I didn't explicitly say them in that video. So it got close. But that was just really weird. It's really fascinating. Now, also what I really want to also mention is after you create a notebook, and let's say you come back tomorrow, let's say I wanted to listen to this next week or share it with somebody. It doesn't show this whole dialogue box here with your summary on the left, your little things down here on the right-hand side, and then your section with your generated podcast. Instead, it's just all blank, and in the bottom right corner, if you tab through with your screen reader,
Notebook guide.
there's a notebook guide button, and that's where it'll pull up this thing, and then you'll see all this information, and then if you want to pull up the previously generated audio file in this thing, it won't be up right away, but there'll be a load button in that section, so you can load it, and it might take like 3 to 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds tops to pull it back up again, and then you'll have your play pause, your slider, and different things, and you can share this. So I could literally share this out to social media, but I don't believe these things are labeled. There's some buttons here. There's a thumbs up, a thumbs down. There's a share button, and then the little hamburger menu option button. So when I played with this on iOS, it really didn't seem like some of those were labeled. But let's go back to this other tab. And
the source is a page from a website called illegally cited.
This, I don't know if we'll play the whole thing. I might just get enthralled and just see what weird things they have to say. But we have generated another podcast based on this text page of just quick links and descriptions of all my projects that I have done over the past several years. And I was looking through this earlier this morning because I was trying to think of what other source I wanted to feed this for a video for today. And let's just go ahead and play it here. Let's see what it thinks about this Projects from Illegally Cited page.
Play audio button.
Today's deep dive is, well, it's a little different.
Different good, I hope.
Oh, definitely. We're diving into digital accessibility.
Nice. Love it.
You sent over
Okay.
the projects page for Illegally Cited. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's a treasure trove, that page. Not just a list, more like a...
Roadmap.
Yeah. A roadmap to someone's passion for making tech and gaming more inclusive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Games, VR.
Obviously, I've
assistive
never
tech,
heard
all
this
seen through
before.
The lens of, well, someone legally blind.
I just
Right.
created it this
So,
morning.
What's grabbing your attention in their work? What should our listener really be paying attention to?
Two things really jump out. First, that Toby Accessibility Do mod.
Hell yeah.
Illegally Cited brings it up constantly.
Really?
I know, right? Genre's not exactly known for accessibility, but that's the point.
Okay, now you got to explain that.
It's not just about making it playable, it's that even niche needs matter.
Right, right.
And showing it off like that, it's a message to, I don't know, other modders. Game dev.
Using the passion project as leverage. Exactly. The second thing, the dark mode stuff on that parallel podcast.
Dark mode. Seems kind of basic, doesn't it?
You'd think so, but they get into why it's crucial, not just aesthetic.
Oh, I can already tell this is about to get deep.
Oh yeah, deep into how it's implemented well or badly
So
across.
What suggested question? Pause audio
I've got to
player
pause
button.
it here. Are they just looking at the information on the web page, or are they following some of the links that are posted? Because I don't think I know I mentioned the Toby Doom mod. I mentioned the magazine article. I have a link to that for the Reload magazine. And well, no, I did. Yeah, I think I did mention the Toby mod when I guessed it on a couple of different podcasts. So I love that though. He mentions it a lot. That's really funny. That was I got a kick out of that. Let's continue. This is, like I said, I've never heard this before, and this is a shorter one. It looks like we're already about a third of the way through.
Play audio button.
Because we often miss the nuance of accessibility.
Exactly.
Not always the big feature. Sometimes it's the small details.
And they don't just say dark mode good, they explain why, using examples and
Which helps everyone, right? Developer or user.
to get it. Yeah.
Exactly.
145. Pause.
So it sounds like they must have like actually went to some of these podcasts, and because I don't know how much we might have to look at well, hell, let's do it right now.
Projects illegally
Let's go to
cited
my
document.
projects
Heading
here,
level 1 visited
and
link illegally
I'm just
cited.
going to go
Content
to the
info line,
bottom.
main theory of the breakdown tech ability blind abilities blind vet tech parallel podcast.
Let's see,
episode.
what do I say about that here?
In this episode, Bring on the Darkness, Shelley, Rose, and I have an interesting conversation on various dark modes and high contrast implementations. How well do these work on the PC, Mac, and mobile? We also chat about how specific apps handle, and sometimes conflict, with a dark theme. There's a lot more to a dark theme than a black background or inverted colors. Heading level 3.
So that's all I said about
Untitled.
that. So I don't know if I have to imagine they're just probably editorializing and trying to expand on things that aren't there, because I can't imagine that they would go to and analyze all of these video or audio episodes. So I have a feeling they're embellishing things a little bit here, if I had to guess. But it's still interesting.
Play audio button.
Illegally cited. Living these challenges, but also...
Changing them. Super proactive advocacy.
Yeah, like that 2017 presentation, how was it? An illegally cited look at VR accessibility.
Well, that one's huge. Imagine VR, but not built for your visual needs.
Oh.
They dove into those barriers head first.
Oof, yeah.
Offered solutions too, not tacked on, but like core design stuff.
Which makes me think of their work with XR Access.
Right. For our listener, that's all about accessibility in VR and AR. Cutting edge stuff.
And they're right there pushing for inclusivity from day one. Like,
Yeah.
the future's being built, let's make sure everyone's invited.
I love that. And they're doing it everywhere. Presentations, IGDA. What's that?
International Game Developers Association.
There you
Right.
go.
Panels at GAConf.
The Game Accessibility Conference.
And
Yeah,
podcasts.
coming up in about a week.
Blind Bargains, FSCat.
It's like a multi-pronged approach, reaching everyone.
Steam group, forums. This isn't just a resume, is it?
Nope. It's lived experience.
I was thinking
turned
that,
into
yeah.
action. They're not talking the talk,
Yep.
they're walking it.
Yeah.
And bringing everyone along with them.
It is
It's
kind of
really
a
something, isn't
multimedia
it? How
resume,
many ways
isn't it?
you can push for accessibility.
Oh, totally. And they get that. They're in it, you know. Not just talking, but
Showing what's already there.
exactly.
Like that Doom mod. For those of us who don't speak mod, what's it actually do?
Okay, so picture this. You're trying to play Doom.
Which, pretty intense, right?
Right. Fast-paced, first person, but with limited vision. This mod adds enemy highlighting, audio cues, even tweaks the HUD so the info's clearer. Makes it playable for people who, you know, might not have been able to otherwise.
That
That's
was a
amazing.
weird
And I know they're into
sound.
those classic shooters. This must have been a labor of love.
Totally. And that personal connection, it makes the advocacy stronger, you know.
Is they care.
Yeah, and it proves a point. Accessibility isn't some impossible dream. Even in games that,
We're built
Yes.
for it.
right, and they've gone everywhere with this. IGDA talks, Reload magazine article, podcasts even.
If we can do Doom.
Exactly. And it goes beyond games, that whole dark mode thing.
Funny thing is, I thought that was just an aesthetic choice for the longest time.
It's way more than that. Sure, less
Yeah,
eye strain is
absolutely.
nice,
Yeah.
but for
What are the
some-
main themes and areas?
That's
Pause audio
actually a
player
really
button.
good point. A lot of people just see that as an aesthetic choice. So apps that don't yet, let's say, feature a dark theme or color contrast options, it's like, well, we'll get to that if we feel like it, because yeah, it's personalization, it's customization. But in the accessibility sphere, it's yeah, there's a lot more to it, and there are actual benefits to either light or dark themes, depending on the person, depending on the user. So good that they, kind of that's a good thing to infer. And
Play audio button.
disorienting,
Wow.
dark mode done right makes all the difference.
And they get into the nitty gritty, don't they?
Oh yeah. On that Parallel podcast, it was fascinating. They break down which
they're
platforms are better,
fascinated with
why,
that one
contrast
link.
ratios, color palettes.
Stuff most people don't even think about.
But for low vision users,
Yes.
huge.
So it's holding developers to a higher standard, not just having accessibility.
Actually working, like their work with that Microsoft group.
Right, the low vision advisory group.
Yeah, that's a seat at the table, directly giving feedback.
And it's not just being there, it's what they bring. Lived experience, shaping the design. They're even beta testing stuff.
Which is so key. Anyone can write guidelines, but
Boots on the ground testing, totally different.
exactly.
It's one thing to be hands-on, but they don't stop there. They're really good at spotlighting other voices too.
Oh, for sure. That's huge, actually. Sharing your story is one thing, but
Making room for others.
Yeah.
And you see that all over this project list. Interviews, co-hosting podcasts like Tech Ability.
those Able Gamers panels are great too.
It's building a movement, not just
It's
a...
a solo act.
Yeah, and that's how things really change. Different views, share experiences.
Learning from each other.
Yeah. Which reminds you, accessibility isn't just, I don't know, checking boxes. It's about, well, all the different ways people experience the world, right?
Absolutely.
Almost
and they're a
done.
great reminder that the digital world, it's for everyone. We've got to make it welcoming.
This deep dive has been, wow, eye-opening for sure. A single project page, and look at all this.
Right.
Doom mods, VR, dark mode, all because someone decided to make tech better for everyone.
And that's what sticks with me. That one person's passion can, like, spark something bigger. They're using their voice, their experiences to make a real difference.
So listener, as you explore illegally cited, think about this. How can you help build that more accessible future? What can you change, big or small, in your own little corner of tech?
Okay, and that is it. So it's interesting that they really honed in on like two or three things. They kept coming back to the Doom mod. They kept coming back to the dark theme in the Parallel podcast. And they kept coming back. They sprinkled in some other things. The VR, they did VR a few times because I mentioned that a few places. They did get, the blind bargains. They got, I forget a couple of the other ones. They did mention the Low Vision Advisory Board, XR Access, IGDA. So they did cover a good portion of them. But yeah, it was an interesting interpretation of. I really had to laugh when they said this isn't a resume page, is it? And when you think about it, like I said, I kind of, if I were going to apply for another job or something, I would of course make a traditional resume, but in a way, especially if it was a position where you were having to present to people a lot, be it making a podcast or a video or teaching or just presenting to an individuals or groups of people. Yeah, this kind of does act as a multimedia resume because it is all about, there's the Steam group and a couple things that aren't necessarily multimedia, but most of the things on there, and there's probably a good 20 or better items on that page, which is kind of scary when I stop and think about it. But it's, yeah, a whole bunch of videos, podcast interviews, co-hosting, presentations, panels, and then the whole YouTube channel, Twitch thing. They didn't mention Twitch at all, I don't think. But there you go, guys. That has been a look at another really interesting, shall we say, use of AI. And, again, I'm torn because on one hand, this is sort of fascinating. I don't know, other than kind of a wow factor of like, hey, look what we can do. I don't know how practical this is. I mean, maybe, I guess, but I don't know. The thing that I hope, again, and just like any tool, um, it's how a tool is used, how AI is used. You have some groups of people that like it, they're all for it, and they think it's the future. You have the people that hate it and like, why are they shoving AI down our throats? I've said this before. And then, I'm kind of in the middle where I definitely see things that we really have to be concerned about. There are cautionary things. But in the last year or so alone, what I've seen AI do already and what I can tell is just around the corner, accessibility has been one of the most practical and I think game changing. What's the word I'm looking for? Like it's the one of the most game-changing things I've seen in the area of accessibility and assistive technology because what it is allowing, what it is doing for blind and low vision people alone is really really cool. How we're not just OCRing a document up, from top to bottom anymore. It can analyze, it can describe things. You can converse with it and figure out a restaurant menu without having to go through all of it sequentially and take 20 minutes to read through a menu. You can kind of do it just like you would if you were with a sighted friend or if you were sighted and you could just eyeball a menu and, oh, I want entrees, or, oh, let's look at appetizers. Do I want one of those? Or do I want to, what do I want for drinks? And we're just around the corner from live. Instead of having to, like, a turn-based, I take a picture, I ask a question, or I ask a question, it answers, we go back and forth. When we get live monitoring and live conversations, which they've already demoed in some through closed doors in some places, when that stuff hits the public, whether it's live monitoring through your camera on your phone or live monitoring your screen on a computer, I see tons of potential there. So yeah, this is, like I said, it's a weird, fascinating, and kind of uncanny use of AI, kind of beyond just giving a text summary of whatever you feed it. So anyway, that has been a look at NotebookLM from Google. It's just notebooklm.google.com. You can play with this for yourself. It works on the computer. It works on iOS, and there may be a couple of unlabeled buttons here and there, but overall it's quite accessible. And I will let you guys make of it what you will. And hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. It was really interesting finding out how AI interprets your work. An exercise in humility, I guess. I don't know. It's just weird. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.